everybody. I'm Dee Mack, the Dee Mack Consulting Group, and welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast.
And I'm Dr. Leslie Dillard, special guest.
Hey, Dr. Dillard is going to be our co-host for today. We're going to be talking about setting bold goals for the new year. So, Leslie, I want to know, what do you think is the importance as far as setting goals is concerned?
You got to have a roadmap.
Yeah?
I mean, if I'm going to take a trip to Alabama, I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
So I had to map it out. It's the same with your business. If you don't have a roadmap, you're going to be all over the place, girl.
Man, that's true. That's so true. Why do you think so many people then kind of shoot from the hip and try to figure out where they're going to go as they go? And what do you think are the dangers in doing that?
Well, I think a lot of people shoot from the hip because they just don't know how to set goals.
Yeah.
I think, over time in life, we've been told, set goals. It's the new year. You got to, and those that are non-Christian will say, I'm going to make a resolution.
Yeah.
And then how long does the resolution last?
Not very long. If you don't have a plan.
If you don't have a plan, you see. And so I think we've been conditioned in our lives to just set a resolution and then figure out, can I get there from here?
Yeah.
And it's just not working for many, especially entrepreneurs. We have to be intentional about what we're doing and how we get to the final curtain.
I love what you said because one of the things I always say is, success does not happen by accident. It happens by design.
That's right.
And so when you're talking about that intentionality, I think it's so necessary for entrepreneurs to really define where they're trying to go. When I was in elementary school, I think I had a teacher who would always tell us, reach for the stars, because even if you fail to reach the stars, you'll still land among the moon or whatever.
Yeah, reach for the moon, and then you land on the stars.
Okay. It was like that. But, the point was that, even if we fall short of our goals, just having something to go towards or reach towards is very, very critical to us trying to, actually get to a particular destination. So today, one of the things that I really want to impress upon our audience is to, ensure that, hey, you at least sit down and understand where you're trying to go, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there? You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's important to at least set goals to try to get to a particular place. And, I think they have to be realistic, right? So we're talking about SMART goals, right? Talk to me about SMART goals.
If they're unrealistic, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So what I tell folks that I counsel or deal with, I tell them start with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know where you want to end up, even just a small tidbit of that, it may not have to be the whole 200 million that you're trying to make in the next 5 years. But what are you trying to do in this month?
Yeah.
In this quarter?
Yeah.
In this 6 month goal?
Yes.
In this year goal?
Yeah.
And then take that and expand and scale based on what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
I think we tend to bite off more than, we start the year off excited, right? I can conquer the world. I'm going to conquer the world.
Yeah.
And you get everybody in your family and whoever's working with you in your business, everybody gets up and they're like,
yeah.
And 2 weeks in.
And I need a muffin. 2 weeks. Yeah.
But your employees, if you have employees, looking at you because they're like, well, what happened? I thought we were going to make $200 million.
Yeah.
But that was not realistic.
Yeah. So, I think you hit the nail on the head, when you said, it really has to, at the beginning, we do start off very excited. I think that's part of the reason why it's so important to actually have that written down, plan. I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
That's right.
That when you decide, okay, this year, in the next 12 months, we're not talking about 3 years from now or whatever, but in this new year, in the next 12 months, let's say you want to make $12,000 a month. That's a low goal. Okay. We're talking about setting bold goals, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But at least if you know, I at least want to make this. This is how much I need to make to survive, right? Then you can back the train up like you were talking about, right? And actually say, okay, a month, if I want to make $12,000 a year, I got to make at least $1,000 a month.
That's right.
Right? And then I got to make at least $250 a week. All right? And then you can even go daily, right? How much do you have to make so that now when you get ready to execute your plan, it's written down. So the question becomes, how do I make $250 a week?
That's right.
Right? And then you got to look at what your offerings are and things like that. How important do you think that that your goals have to align with your mission and your vision?
Oh, absolutely. You can't have goals over here and going down the left street, right? And your vision is off to the right.
Yeah.
People sometimes don't understand how important that vision is, because the vision is cast for the company itself.
That's right.
And it should line up with the owners or the teams, their principles.
Yeah.
And when they don't, then you see a misalignment.
That's right.
Of not just the vision and my principles, but a misalignment of the vision, my principles, and the goals. And you'll find yourself doing this chasing your tail type of thing, and you're not getting anywhere. So that $250 you're trying to make a week, you may make 10.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
Because you have to give direction. The vision gives direction.
Yeah.
The creativity of your team will help you develop the direction.
Yeah.
But you cannot survive in business without setting a vision.
Yeah. I wanna highlight that, all your goals really should align to your mission and your vision. I love, the scripture that says, where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint, or the people perish.
That's right.
And the point of it all is that, if you don't have like a clear set direction, and we go back to that because it starts there, right? Even if you don't have a company, right? What's the vision for your life? Like, what have you been purposed to accomplish? And then, everything you do really should align with where you say you're trying to go, or what's your purpose to do. You know what I mean?
But too many people don't even understand what their purpose is.
That's true.
And so if you're starting, if you're in an entrepreneurial mind space, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing on this planet, then how can you guide a company to what they're supposed to be doing on this planet?
Right. I think at times, it's easier, at least for Dee Mack Consulting Group, it's easy for me to know where I'm going because really my purpose aligns with everything that I do. Mm-hmm. So whether it's business, whether it's teaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, whether it's music, whether it's whatever, my purpose is to help people birth purpose. Knowing that, right, in the consulting space, it's like, oh, you have an idea, you have something you want to bring about, I can help you get there. Because strategically, this is how I think, right? But I think that way in any space. So 9 times out of 10, I find that everything kind of intertwines together, right? But my point in saying that is, sometimes you may not know what your specific life purpose is, but as you kind of set your hands to do things, you'll start to figure out like what motivates you, or, what are you passionate about? What irritates you, right? That may need to be, it's a problem that may need to be fixed or solved or whatever. Don't kind of want to get into that. We have a class for, figuring out your mission, vision, and then, working to align your goals towards that. It's actually going to be in February. It's a strategic planning session. So that'll help you to identify what your objectives are, what your mission and your vision is. So if you don't know, it's okay. All right. It's okay. But I want to continue the conversation. Just kind of want to ask, how important do you think that, I want to go back to the SMART goal question, right? because, smart there, being SMART goals, meaning that it's specific, that it's measurable, that it's attainable or achievable, right? That it's realistic, that it's time bound, right? So, when you talk about setting SMART goals and actually accomplishing those goals, have you ever experienced, being a leader of leaders and being in, various organizations, how the lack of goals contribute to an organizational demise?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I think, and I was guilty of it.
Yeah.
Coming in excited, a new commander, for instance, you've observed, other people who've gone before you.
Yeah.
Say, I'm not gonna make that mistake, right? And you run right in and you make the exact same mistake. And some of it for me, it was I didn't study enough. I didn't take into account other factors, outside entities that are pulling on your organization.
Yeah.
They have goals and visions too. And if you're trying to partner, if they don't line up, you can actually derail both companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've made a mess of some things in the past, but I'm good at cleanup too.
Yeah,
Clean up on aisle 3. I can do that.
I think you said something very, very significant when you said, as far as like aligning yourself with other organizations, as entrepreneurs, especially as solopreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. Those that are just starting off, maybe you don't have a team. I think it's important to pull your team in if you have one in setting the goals for the new year. But if you don't have a team and you are your team, or you're growing a team, right? It's important to communicate what that vision is so that all business activities can align. But when they do not align, or those things are not clearly communicated, then that can create chaos amongst the team members, like confusion. But then also it can create misdirection. So in other words, there's a need to be efficient and effective. And a lot of times people use those two words interchangeably, but they're two different things. Because being effective means that you're getting closer to your destination, right? Getting closer to your goals, right? Being efficient means that you're doing that with the least amount of resources possible, right? So cost efficiency. And you're not, recreating processes, you're not spinning your wheels, and there are no bottlenecks, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that to be effective and to be efficient, you kind of got to know, and you got to be able to communicate what those goals are.
Yeah, communication in any organization, I think, is behind setting your vision and purpose.
Yeah.
It's number 3.
Yeah.
Because if you can't effectively communicate what your vision and purpose is for your product, for this line, and it doesn't have to be for the whole company. Like, you do have to communicate for the whole company, but even at the shop floor level.
That's right. Yeah.
From the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
Everybody has to know we're rolling this way, y'all.
Yeah.
But there's always one that's gonna roll up. So you see that canoe going in circles.
Yeah, and it becomes counterproductive.
It does. You waste time. You waste resources, and it builds frustration.
Yeah. Let me ask you, how we're talking about boldness, right? Mm-hmm. And setting goals. So, for me this year, my goal is going to be to increase Dee Mack Consulting Group revenue by 50%.
Okay.
Now, I'm typically like conservative in my numbers because I'm like, as long as I'm making more than I made last year, you know what I'm saying? I'm like 5-10%. Well, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But
we want to be bold.
We want to be bold. Okay. And so this is my thing though, right? I can say that that's what I want.
Right.
And this is the thing that I guess, it's important to communicate that you can set bold goals. Mm-hmm. But then you have to come up with a plan to get there, right? And so for me, knowing the planning part of it has really given me insight into how I'm going to be able to generate 50%, which makes it realistic, right? Because I could just talk out the side of my neck or whatever and be like, yeah, man, we about to do this. Yeah, this year. But if I don't know how,
that part.
And I think this is the part where, the planning comes in and it's really critical to do this part. And I think this is also the part where a lot of people kind of skip over because it's the boring part, because it's the part that takes research. It's the part that you're like, I don't really want to plan.
And you should probably spend about 2/3 of your time planning.
Yeah. And you know what else? It's something that you're going to find yourself doing consistently throughout the life cycle of your business or your life period.
Absolutely.
Right? Is the planning part of it. Dwight Eisenhower has this quote, and he says, I had found that, and I'm paraphrasing, but it goes like this almost. All right. I have found that planning itself is, he says, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And I love that quote.
That's very, very true.
I love that quote because, one thing I think that's important to note is that plans are fluid and they're based on circumstances, right? This is where, as you're planning, where, you do like this SWOT analysis and you figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are internal to the organization, and your opportunities and threats are external, what things threaten, can stand to threaten, where you're trying to go. And you assess the landscape. And then you say, okay, based on these things, I can maximize these strengths and opportunities.
Absolutely.
And then let me work on minimizing these weaknesses and threats, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about maybe the execution, right, part of setting bold goals? Like, in other words, what do entrepreneurs need to do or expect as they start out to execute their goals?
Well, I think from my perspective, bold goals is, okay, I'm going to make X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
I've never done this business before. I'm just starting. So getting back to the SMART piece that interjects into this, be realistic about the goal, but do your research.
Yeah.
What other entity is out there that kind of looks like what you're doing or what you want to do? What other entities out there are willing to kind of share their experiences? I'm a big proponent of networking.
Yeah.
So if I can look at what I'm trying to do, say I'm gonna make cowboy boots. I got to make cowboy boots.
Hey, they look good. They look good.
I'm gonna make cowboy boots. Who else out there is making cowboy boots?
Yeah.
Quality, right? So, and what resources are needed? So you have to gather the facts. And I think sometimes many of us don't want to take the time because it takes time.
It does take time.
I'm excited about starting this new business. God downloaded this. And with God, I can do all things.
Yeah.
So we're running, and we don't even have our number on. We haven't registered for the race.
Right.
But you know,
it don't even care.
A month down the road, you're like, well, what do I have to show for the amount of money that I've put into this?
Yeah.
Did I even need to get a building, or could I have opened this in the garage?
Okay.
So
at the beginning.
So it's the, I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna grab that. Take the time to do your research.
Yeah.
And then you can run.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate your insight. As we move forward, I really just, want to encourage you. You can set bold goals, and by bold, I mean you don't have to limit yourself, right? Because God is limitless. But at the same time, do the work that it takes so that when you execute, you can be successful. Even if you have to tweak it a little bit, success is not going to happen by accident, right? It's going to happen by design. Thank you so much for being here. Look forward to the next time.